Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Now, I want to make a video talking about how I was absolutely convinced I would never ever recover from severe chronic OCD. I'm sure it's something that you can all relate to, not just me, not just you watching this video, everyone on the team and all other OCD sufferers that I speak to, that I coach. We've all stumbled across this, that we're convinced we're never ever going to get better. Okay, now why did I feel that way? So I felt that way because the main stumbling block for me was thinking that mine was different. Mine was real. I was treatment resistant. So I could see how someone else was OCD, or I could see how a different theme that I had, or a different real event, false memory, how that was OCD, but the one that I was currently stuck on felt totally and convincingly real, felt different. This one matters, the other one's OCD. And I can see how that one is, but this one is totally real and I'm never going to get out of this one. That's how each new trigger feels. That's how each new fear feels, new theme feels, new event, new memory, whatever it may be. And that's exactly why OCD latches to it, because it says, this one is all that matters now. Okay? I remember when I was really stuck with real event false memory OCD. So when you got to think, because when you're told, before I found Rob's channel, I was told that thoughts are thoughts, do the exposures and OCD would just gradually go. It would disappear kind of thing. You'd be cured from it, or it just won't play a part in your life. So I thought, okay, thoughts are thoughts. But then with real event false memory OCD, you're convinced something may have happened in the past. You're convinced something did happen in the past. And that feels totally real. So just by saying it's just a thought, move on, no, it wasn't going to cut that. Because you're saying, well, no, it's not a thought. No, this one's real. No, this thing actually happened. It's not a thought, okay? And that's what OCD gets in on. And that is why it goes after those kind of fears, because you cannot change the past. You cannot go back and alter the past. You cannot amend anything that may have happened. You cannot amend real event. And the reason I say real event / false memory is because you're never going to know whether it's real or false. Because OCD can twist, it can manipulate, it can say, right, this happened even though it didn't happen. But there's no point going down that path, because you could spend years, you could spend the rest of your life going down that path, and you could be sure something didn't happen, but OCD is going to find something why it did. Okay? But going back to what I was saying, so it felt like, well, no, mine happened. Everyone else has just got thoughts. Everyone else is just scared of, different themes, different fears lashing. But no, mine thing actually happened. And that's how I was going to feel. Okay? Why else did I feel like I could never, ever recover from chronic OCD? Well, it was due to the resilient nature and the stubborn nature of OCD in itself. Because I'd get over one fear, or it seemed like I got over one theme, or one particular thing that it latched to, and then how it works, it morphs, it switches up, it changes, it finds something else, and it feels like, boom, you're back to square one. It feels like, I'm never going to get there. Okay, it even feels worse. Okay, but what you realize over time, there's no such thing as square one, and you're ever learning, you're ever changing, you're ever adapting new perspectives, changing beliefs, different ways of viewing stuff. So you realise that there's no such thing as square one. And that's a huge thing, because no matter what OCD chucks in, it's, right, how can I overcome this? Rather than seeing as, oh God, here we go again, I've got worse. No, that's never a healthy mindset to have. So due to the resilient and stubborn nature of OCD, it was like, when is this ever going to end? I feel like I'd be working on something, keep chipping away, and all of a sudden, boom, latch into something that I've never even thought of before. Especially a real event, false memory, it latched to an event that I can't even, I didn't even think of that before. Now it suddenly feels like the most important thing ever. It feels like the most urgent thing ever. That's how it's going to feel. Okay? So understanding how that operates, but not getting too disheartened when it does morph and move around. Not completely berating yourself or beating yourself up when it does morph, when it does change. Because looking back, when it used to change for me, that was when I was the most deflated. That is when I was the most defeated. I talk about times when I'd have probably traded both my legs for OCD recovery. I probably would have taken cancer. Looking back now is crazy, but in the moment, that's how it feels, because you just want anything for that ounce of relief. Any slight comfort, you would do anything. You just want that rid of a feeling. But it's all part of building the frustration tolerance as you learn on the journey and over time. But that was what really frustrated me, where it just felt like this thing was never ending, and it's how you feel as well. It's not just your brain's morphing around looking for new things. It's like boom, convinced that you're never going to get out, convinced that this thing is now going to haunt you forever. It convinced you that you're going to be trapped forever, that you're going to be stuck in this one theme now for the rest of your life. All the others, nope, I can see I can overcome that, but this one now, no. Like I remember when it first latched existential, the fear of sort of I was sort of the only person alive or conscious, and everyone else was sort of living in a simulation. That was quite tough because I didn't really know how to deal with that when it first hit. But then you see the core fears at play, you see the irrational beliefs that you hold, you see that I was very resistant to the worst case scenario, rolling with uncertainty. So you just adjust your way of looking at it, but it's the same core principles, it's the same tools to overcome these kind of fears. Because my main fear when I first came through the door was sort of fear of going to jail, fear of being a bad person, fear of being rejected, fear of being abandoned, all that. And all of a sudden it switches up to existential. It switches up to sensory motor. I remember when that first latched to my blinking or swallowing or breathing, and I thought, shit, how am I going to deal with that? Because I can break down the fear of going to jail, but now being locked in an internal state where I can't get out of the breathing sensation, oh shit, different way of looking at it. But it's still the same tools, the same principles, bring it along for the ride. Sort of perspectives, how you're viewing the situation, you're awfulizing, catastrophizing, just that resistant of the worst case scenario. Like, if this was forever, no, I couldn't live with it. It's the worst thing ever. It's unbearable. I can't stand it. I need it gone now. All those kind of things, okay, which was keeping me stuck. I remember it latching to health OCD. That was incredibly tough because when we talk about you can't tell the difference between whether it's OCD or not, that's very, very relevant for health OCD, because I remember going to the doctors very, very often. So, for example, if I was scared of that I had cancer, I'd go up to the doctors and get a scan, and then I'd come home from the doctors or a few weeks when you got the scan results back and say, Sam, all clear, all good, nothing to worry about, mate. I go, okay, all right, brilliant, thank you. And I'd come out of there, literally, as I'm shutting the door to walk out of the doctors, it would say, yeah, but hang on a minute. Your arm, when they did the scan, your arm was placed in this position, or your arm was placed in that position, meaning the scan results aren't accurate, meaning that they are invalid, that they are void, because you didn't do this. Was the scanner on, Sam? Was the scanner on? Was the doctor who was doing the scan, did they have it on? Were they concentrating? Were they focused? Did they hear what you said? Did you explain the symptoms correctly, Sam? Did you tell them, did you point to the right area of your body where the issue was? Or did you say, just because it wasn't hurting at that time, did you point to something else? Did you not explain it correctly? How did they react? What was their facial expression when you told them? Are you sure they understand cancer? Are you sure they understand all other illnesses? Are you sure? Honestly, that was, and I'm sure you can relate to this, that was non-stop. As soon as I stepped out the door, it was boom. I was back in within a couple of days. And that was absolutely tiring because in the moment, it didn't feel like OCD. It didn't feel like it because I thought, no, this is a genuine concern. I don't want to die. This is a genuine concern. I'm convinced I have cancer. I'm convinced I have a lump. I need to go see the doctor. Even though they could have told me 1,052 times that, Sam, it is not cancer. Sam, it's not anything serious. That was never, ever enough for OCD. That would never satisfy OCD's needs because it would say, what about that? But did this happen? Okay, it's going to doubt everything. You have a doubting disorder, hence why 50, 75, 100 years ago, it was called the doubting disease. Okay, when it was very, very misunderstood, but that's what it does. It doubts absolutely everything. And that leads me on to my next point perfectly, because you are going to doubt absolutely everything. And that was one of my big stumbling blocks, doubting everything. Doubting the tools, doubting Albert Ellis, doubting your coach, doubting you've got OCD, doubting your progress, doubting. There's nothing you won't doubt. It's as simple as that. If you can doubt that this, you can doubt that I'm a Bristol City fan, right? You're gonna doubt that. I can doubt that. But the point I'm making is that there is no limit of what you cannot doubt. Okay. OCD will doubt everything, hence what's called the doubting disorder. So I used to doubt progress all the time. So even like after sort of 18 months into the journey, when like 2020, I remember doubting that, have I even made any progress here? Like, I forget all my good days. I forget all the progress I've made in shifting beliefs and changing perspectives and working on life structure, cutting compulsions. Just because of this new trigger, this new theme that had latched, it felt like, well, any progress that you ever made, complete waste of time. That's down the toilet. That's out the window. Complete waste of time. Because this thing now, this thing's real. This thing's different. You're treatment resistant. You're going to be stuck forever. You're going to be trapped. You're never ever getting out of this. And that's how it can feel within a matter of seconds. Okay? Trust me on that. Matter of seconds. Well, you don't need me to persuade you. You're living that right now. Okay? So yeah, I was a very big doubter, but we all are, hence the disorder that we have. So I was doubting that, I was doubting the tools. I remember one of my biggest triggers was when I just got off a one-to-one actually, speaking about this to someone, and we're talking about how OCD can doubt everything and the power it has of doubting everything. Now, I remember rereading the first book on our reading list, How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything by Albert Ellis. And I remember reading a quote. I don't think it's in the book, but I remember I did my own sort of, I wouldn't just read that book and that's it, because I looked at all of Albert Ellis's work, you know, his videos on YouTube and all different articles that he'd written and different books that he'd written. And at one point he mentions that OCD sufferers are very, very difficult to work with because they're very whiny, because it's very repetitive and reassurancy and sort of saying same things over and over again. And, you know, why isn't this going in? You know, I've already said this, why isn't this going in kind of thing? And that's how he used to view it. And he didn't like working with OCD sufferers for that exact reason. Remember, Albert Ellis didn't have OCD. His tools are excellent, his principles and his teachings are excellent for an OCD sufferer, but he didn't suffer with severe OCD himself. Okay, physical and social anxiety, but it wasn't ever chronic severe OCD. But I remember reading that he didn't like working with OCD sufferers, and I thought, oh my God, that's me now. I'm done. I'm going to be stuck forever now, because if his tools do not work for me, I am doomed. I'm going to be stuck. Everything that I've ever learned is all a waste of time. Nothing matters. It does not matter now because he said this about OCD sufferers. And you can see that 0 to 100 catastrophizing right there. But that is what we do. That is what OCD sufferers do. But in that moment, right, obviously in that moment I felt very, very low. That was a very big setback. And I felt very deflated, very defeated. I thought, right, that's it. This is all my life's going to come to now. Just going from setback to setback, living in a state of chronic anxiety for the rest of my life, just putting up with OCD. No, I didn't want that, but that's how it felt at the time. But how did I overcome that? Now, in that moment when I was severely triggered, I had to just keep up with the tools anyway, regardless of how I felt. Let anything be there. Let any fear, let any feeling, let any anxiety, let any panic, let any guilt, let anything be there, okay? Even when OCD was screaming that internal dialogue that we talk about, that internal dialogue is, no, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's all crap, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, you're going to be stuck forever, it's not going to work. You know, that was in my mind 24/7, okay? Even opening the book, open any book on the reading list, not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And that's how it felt. And this is why when people say OCD thoughts are just what if thoughts, no, they can be everything. They can be like the commanding, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. That's how it can feel. Okay? But in that moment, I had to just do it anyway. I had to, because I thought, well, I could go back to the compulsions. Well, that ain't going to work. I could go back trying to work it out and analysing the past and trying to get certainty and an answer. Well, that ain't going to work because I've been doing that for bloody years and that didn't get me anywhere. So I had to roll with the uncertainty. Take the OCD punches, duck it out the way and move in my head, because OCD was really going for me. It was really laying into me, because it was like, no, whatever you've ever done, whatever you've learned isn't going to work. You're going to be stuck with this forever. But I had to just take it one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time at my worst, when even just surviving the day felt like the biggest task. Even getting out of bed, even just functioning, concentrating, going to work, whatever I was doing felt like the biggest task, felt like a huge chore. I just wanted to lie and sort of cry and sleep, and I didn't want to do anything. But in that moment, I had to just keep pushing through. I thought, right, life structure, okay, well, let's do things that I want to do. What would I do if I didn't have OCD? Well, I'd still go out for a walk, I'd still exercise, I'd still go and see friends, I'd still go to football, I'd still listen to music, I'd still see my partner, I'd still walk my dog, I'd still see family, I still watch films, I still read books. Okay, I said, why can't I do this now? OCD would say, yeah, but because you're anxious, you're triggered, you can't do this now. Well, I'm going to do it anyway. That was incredibly tough, of course, because when you're triggered, it's not just a small, mild feeling. No, it can feel completely overwhelming, debilitating. I get that, live that. So I had to keep doing it anyway. I had to keep reading and watching films. I had to keep up my social and life structure anyway, whilst keep putting in the work, whilst keep chipping away, whilst keep reading the books, whilst keep disputing, doing exposures, cutting compulsions. And that was very, very tough, because when you're in a cloud of doubt, when your whole life feels like it's doubt, when it feels like your whole OCD is complete crap and just doubt, you just doubt everything. It's hard to explain how it feels. Everything within seconds can just be like, nope, you're doubting everything. Everything is just a cloud of doubt over your head. Okay, so that was very, very tough. But I had to make sure I keep pushing through and had the aim of long-term recovery in mind. Okay, it's easy for that to diminish and just forget about that. Obviously, when you're triggered, it's easy to forget about, oh, am I going to be recovered in 2 years' time? It's easy to forget that, obviously, because that trigger feels like overwhelming. It just takes all your attention away in the now, yes. But you have to keep thinking, okay, where am I going to get me? Where's this going to get me? Where's cutting this compulsion going to get me? Where's keep chipping away at my rational beliefs going to get me? Okay? So, I spoke a lot about how I was convinced I was never going to recover, but I just want to leave you on a bit of hope as you're watching this video, that although I had all these doubts and I had all these stumbling blocks along the way, I had all these hurdles and obstacles to overcome, I always clung on to that crumb of hope, okay? Seeing other people's stories, listening to Rob, I was like, yeah, I just want to see, I want to be rational. I want to have that perspective. I could see the logic in these things. And I'm sure as you speak to me, Momin, Nick, Rob, now during coaching calls, I'm sure you can see the logic, but it's just not believing it yet. No feelings have changed, which they're not going to yet. But that was my crumb of comfort. That was my crumb of hope, of clinging on to the small glimmer of hope that I may recover, that I may get better. And that's what just kept pushing me through at my worst days. And I'm so glad that I clung on to that. I'm so glad that I managed to think, you know what, no matter how I feel, I'm going to keep doing it anyway. Okay? I gave up at times. I'm human, I gave up at times. I whined at times. I vented at times. I confessed at times. I chucked the towel in many, many times. But it got to a stage where I thought, you know what, where is this going to get me? I could cry, I could moan. I was a big crier, by the way. I cried a lot. I'm not embarrassed to say that, because I completely get how difficult OCD is. Completely debilitating, so I get that. I'm not embarrassed to say I cry at all. That's just a complete myth. Of course, crying doesn't solve anything. Crying doesn't help you overcome. No, it's a waste of time. But I have compassion, I have sympathy, because I was a big crier. But then I realised that, well, what was crying getting me? It was getting me nowhere. So over time, crying started to come down and actually started focusing on the problem of overcoming it. What am I scared of? What is the fear? What's causing the anxiety? Rather than just crying, because you can't out-cry OCD. Neither can you out-vent OCD. You can't out-confess OCD. You can't outrun OCD. You can't out-exercise OCD. Okay? So yes, so I clung on to that bit of hope, which I hope you're doing right now, even if you're having a very, very tough time, even when it feels like your whole life is crumbling apart. Because you got to think, you have OCD, but other stuff happens in life, right? There's other life struggles that you may get. You have ill health. Maybe there's a financial issue. Maybe there's a relationship issue, a family issue. Maybe like an exercise, like fitness issue, health issue, which I've already said. So things happen in life, okay? So it's easy just to get so bogged down and think, oh, I'm never going to get better. This is all I'm going to get, good as I've got now. I'm just going to settle for this. No, okay? Try and cling on to that hope, even in the darkest days, even in the most difficult moments. Try and cling on to that moment of, I can get there. I will get there. Okay, I'm going to keep going regardless. And I had to really think at this. I had to look at my OCD journey and my recovery journey as my life depended on it. Because it did depend on it. Because I wasn't living. I was just existing. I was just getting up. I was starting to function. I was functioning. I was going to work. I didn't have any energy. I didn't feel any plugged into life at all. I had no motivation to do anything. I had no clarity of mind. I lost all interest. I lost all passion. I lost all enthusiasm for anything. But I thought, you know what? If I just keep chipping away, in 5 years, in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, who knows, I might get better. So I clung on to that hope regardless, okay? But there were many, many, many stumbling blocks along the way. There are many moments when I was convinced I was never, ever going to recover. And it's important to remember that, because you see me, you see Rob, you see Momin, you see Nick, how we are today, and we've recovered from OCD. Okay, but don't think for a second that we never gave up, that it was a breeze, that it was linear, that it was a walk in the park. No, it was incredibly, incredibly tough. There were loads of setbacks on my journey, loads of relapses, loads of moments felt completely and utterly deflated, felt, oh, what is the point? Nothing else matters now. OCD's got me good, because it was just moving the boundaries, moving the goalposts all the time. Like, it just felt, well, if I do this, oh no, what about this? Constant doubt in your head 24/7. That's how it's going to feel. Okay, we get that, we've lived that, we've experienced that, and we've also overcome that. Okay, you're not alone, you're not broken, you're not trapped. You can get better, you will get better. Just keep putting in the work, persistence, patience, and hard work.